What has transpired here at the First Bank Center here in Denver, Colorado? It wasn't just a big night of fight. It was a big night of memorable moments.
Conor McGregor with us here in Denver, Colorado. Good left hand from Rockhold. Right hand right back from Mike Perry.
Can I get a face-off with Conor McGregor, man?
It's an incredible setup here, incredible matchmaking, incredible storytelling. Oh, you had to come here. All these fighters that step in here are warriors, and all have my respect. And I'm into this game, yeah. We'll be into this, yeah.
And we are live here in the Maverick Center here in Salt Lake City, Utah. Folks, what a night. It is going to be historic indeed for BKFC 56.
Whoever's the king of violence right here, this is going to be a great fight.
Perry on the target. Right hand from Mike Perry. Double jab. Who's the king of violence? I am!
Combat fighting in its purest form, bare knuckle fighting in the city of angels.
80 seconds remaining.
We've got the biggest announcement in the BKFC history we're about to make, so let's make that announcement.
What's up, Knucklemania? The notorious Conor McGregor here. Ladies and gentlemen, the huge announcement that I have for you today. Conor McGregor, myself, and McGregor Sports and Entertainment is now an owner of Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship. Welcome to the big leagues. David Feldman, baby, we did it.
He's now an owner of BKFC with us, and we're going to take this motherfucking thing all the way to the...
Good morning. Welcome to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Today is Thursday. College football begins Saturday. NFL preseason week 3 begins tonight. Thanks for tuning into the show. For the next hour, we got you covered on everything happening in football and, of course, some Major League Baseball updates and news as well. In addition, the quarterback carousel, that is the Denver Broncos, they make their decision. We'll tell you who that is in just a few minutes. Joe Madden will join us to give us a CFL preview for the upcoming weekend. Pat Evans is with us from Legal Sports Report. And with just 4 games on the College Football Week 0 docket, we've got the broadcaster doing one of the games this weekend in Nevada between SMU and Nevada this weekend. Rich Waltz is going to join us on the show. He's calling the game for CBS Sports. So he will be with us to tell us who could potentially win. And although there's a big favorite in the game, maybe we'll get into that as well. But first, let's begin. The Denver Broncos have a new quarterback again. Oh, this has been going on a long time, right? John Elway, Peyton Manning, Tim Tebow, Brock Osweiler. Trevor Siemian, he was a quarterback, right, for the Denver Broncos. Russell Wilson, remember him too? Bo Nix, the guy that they drafted. That's a good sign that Bo Nix ended up winning the job. The announcement made yesterday by head coach Sean Payton. This was always his guy, a guy that looks like Drew Brees, throws like Drew Brees, is accurate like Drew Brees, and the back of his jersey says Nix. Okay, that's who we went with. And Nix, by the way, had a really good preseason. Let's not take anything away from that. But, he did have a choice of Sean Payton. He brought in Zach Wilson in the offseason. And as I mentioned, Jared Stidham is back with Denver again as a possible starter. But inevitably, the future is now. And although Denver is not expected to compete for a championship this season, Payton says it just came down to going with the player he wanted to call the shots.
So, look, Bo Nix is going to be our starting quarterback. I felt like, and I said this to you guys 2 weeks ago, that room has been outstanding. Stidham, certainly with his experience, and then, being able to work with Zach Wilson, all 3 of those guys. We've got some tough decisions as we get into the roster. I don't want to get into all the other roster battles. That's not for today. He's been outstanding. Obviously, there's a ton of room for growth. There's a lot of things that he needs to work on. I've already spoken with both, all 3 of those guys. Stiddy, will be a great resource for him. as well as Zach. And, we feel like that off season at such an important position, we made some really good decisions, and we're going to have a chance to see them unfold as the season goes on.
It's a new day and age of rookie quarterbacks in the NFL. They all start. I mean, that's basically the way it goes. Now, Penix Jr. is not going to start because Kirk Cousins is there. But beyond that, it even feels like J.J. McCarthy would have started for the Vikings as well. Of course, he is out for the season. All right, so if we go through this entire tiebreaker to reach the college football playoff, then we'll probably be here for an hour just doing tiebreakers. But the Southeastern Conference announced their set of tiebreakers for the 2024 football season, with the addition of Oklahoma and Texas and the elimination of divisions in this now 16-team league. So basically, I'm going to break it down for you easily. In the event of a tie between teams competing for a spot in the SEC championship game, and folks could end up having a tie because there's so many teams in this, the procedures basically state as follows, and it shouldn't really get past this too. To win and get into the SEC championship game, head-to-head competition, that is the main tiebreaker. Okay, so now what happens if the two teams don't play each other? I think that's possible too. It becomes the record versus all common opponents versus the tied teams. And that really should break the tie. If it doesn't, they'll do record against the highest placed common opponent in the conference standings and proceeding through the standings among the teams. And there's a lot of other stuff too, but it comes down to a random draw eventually. I don't think it'll ever get to that, but that's the latest with the Southeastern Conference. Meanwhile, the Atlanta Falcons just keep spending money, $65 million guaranteed for cornerback A.J. Terrell. Signs a 4-year extension, $81 million. The Falcons make this announcement official as they just keep giving out the cash this offseason. There's actually a trade, by the way, announced this morning. The Commanders released Riley Patterson. He had a really hard time kicking field goals in the preseason, so they traded for Cade York. And York was pretty good, by the way, with the Browns' 7th-round pick in return. The Cowboys have added a lineman, Linval Joseph. He reunites with Mike Zimmer, former head coach, of course, at Minnesota. They also had Jordan Phillips, Carl Lawson. They're just trying to get better on defense. Also, Tyreek Hill announced yesterday he's probably going to miss this next preseason game for the Dolphins. He hasn't been practicing against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but he should be ready for the regular season, so good news there. Yesterday in college football, an announcement that we have a coach suspension to start the season, the longest tenured coach in all of college football, by the way. Iowa head coach Kirk Ferentz and assistant John Boudmeyer are suspended 1 game for a violation to the recruitment of transfer quarterback Cade McNamara. This happened back in 2022. And Iowa will play on August 31st at home against Illinois State. They'll probably win easily, I would guess, without Kirk Ferentz, but not going to be on the sidelines there for that game. Also, Nebraska has named their starting quarterback, true freshman Dylan Raiola. Not a surprise. He's going to start against UTEP on August 31st. He's the highest-ranked recruit that the Huskers have brought in about 2 decades, so he is there. Former Utah State head coach Blake Anderson intends to sue his ex-employer for wrongful termination, according to a release. Utah State fired Anderson after an internal investigation concluded he violated policies related to properly reporting sexual misconduct. He says he did nothing wrong, and all of this is misinformation. In the offseason in Major League Baseball, it was a feel-good story. Joey Votto, who was not retained by the Cincinnati Reds, signed a 1-year deal with the Toronto Blue Jays. But in his first spring training game, he awkwardly stepped on a bat, and that cost him months, and then various other injuries kept him off the field. He never played with the Blue Jays. What he did last night was say, I'm not going to. Joey Votto retires. After 17 seasons in Major League Baseball, he was the 2010 National League MVP and certainly changed the way that we see on-base percentage in the game. One of the more selective hitters in the history of Major League Baseball. Speaking of the Reds, Elly De La Cruz stole his 60th base of the season, and he's got a 20 home run, 60 stolen base season, and he's even looking for more. He's the 5th player in history to do that in Major League Baseball. South Shore Little League coach Bob Laterza criticized Aaron Judge for not paying enough attention to his team in Williamsport, Pennsylvania, and the Yankees fired back at this coach, basically saying that Aaron Judge is one of the nicest guys around and takes care of all the kids and is very respectful, and the coach could learn a lot from him. And this is a story about nothing, basically. Who cares? All right, let's move on. Yankees and Guardians today. The Yankees minus 174 on the money line. Garrett Cole, Gavin Williams It's the matchup potentially that could decide the best record in Major League Baseball at the end of the season. Justin Verlander returned to the Houston Astros. He said he felt pretty good after his first start. Verlander, all they're looking for him is to remain in the rotation and pitch in the postseason. The BMW Championship is currently underway. Siwoo Kim right now has the early lead. He is 4 under par, followed by Taylor Pendrith, 2 under. Will Zalatoris, 1 under. Austin Eckroat at 1 under. And Chris Kirk, who had a great start last week as well, 1 under par as well. Tina Charles becomes the second all-time leading scorer in WNBA history. She plays on the Atlanta Dream. In a low-scoring game last night, she passed Tina Thompson with 7,491 points. A BetMGM player, by the way, won a $6.4 million progressive jackpot on Monday morning. It's the largest jackpot in the history of an online casino in the United States. And by the way, one story to bring to you, former Iowa State tight end has been marred by a betting scandal right now, and his name is Deshaun Hanukkah, teaming up with the sports betting firm to provide education to materials to young athletes. And again, a lot of issues happen with Iowa and Iowa State football, but needless to say, this is going to be, I think, better for the future, especially when you factor in he's working with integrity compliance as well. We'll take a quick time out here on the show. Coming up next, Vinny Iyer weighs in. Will we get these final 2 wide receivers to sign in the NFL? Will CeeDee Lamb play? Will Jamar Chase play? We're closing in on the regular season. We'll take a look at the NFC East with Vinny Iyer of Sporting News next. Don't go away.
What has happened? What has transpired here at the First Bank Center here in Denver, Colorado? It wasn't just a big night of fight. It was a big night of memorable moments.
Conor McGregor with us here in Denver, Colorado. Good left hand from Rockhold. Right hand right back from Mike Perry. Now 3-0 in BKFC.
Could I get a face-off with Conor McGregor, man?
It's an incredible setup here, incredible matchmaking, incredible storytelling. Oh, you had to come here. All these fighters that step in here are warriors, and all have my respect. And I'm into this game, yeah. We'll be into this, yeah.
And we are live here in the Maverick Center here in Salt Lake City, Utah. Folks, what a night. It is going to be historic indeed for BKFC 56.
Whoever's the king of violence right here, this is going to be a great fight.
Perry on the target for the left hand. Right hand from Mike Perry. Double check. Who's the king of violence? I am!
Combat fighting in its purest form, bare knuckle fighting in the city of angels.
80 seconds remaining.
We've got the biggest announcement in the BKFC history we're about to make, so let's make that announcement.
What's up, Knucklemania? The notorious Conor McGregor here. Ladies and gentlemen, the huge announcement that I have for you today. Conor McGregor, myself, and McGregor Sports and Entertainment is now an owner of Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship. Welcome to the big leagues. David Feldman, baby, we did it.
He's now an owner of BKFC with us, and we're going to take this motherfucking thing all the way to the top now.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. I'm Craig Mish. We've got some big matchups coming up this weekend in college football and also in the NFL preseason. But wouldn't you know, we're not closing the book just yet on the Canadian Football League. And we're going to talk about that as well as a couple of matchups for Labor Day and a little NFL. It's time now for the SportsGrid Sound Off. Well, CFL matchups, fast and furious, coming this weekend. Games tonight, games all weekend. In fact, The Toronto Argonauts are taking on the Rough Riders. And folks, we are not going to just bail on the CFL, even though more popular football is upon us. So let's get a preview of that matchup and see who could end up coming out on top. Here's our very own Joe Madden with a CFL preview.
Week 12 of the CFL kicking off with the matchup between the Rough Riders and the Argos. Now the Argos off a bye are at home in this one and will have their star quarterback back. Chad Kelly will be back after serving suspension, and they're hoping to up their aerial game with him out there on the field. The run game has been fantastic for the Argos, but they have been missing him there. It's going to take him a hot moment, though, I do think, to get up to game speed. When we look at Saskatchewan, they've lost their last 4 games, but Travis Harris was back in the last one, and he offensively was phenomenal, racking up the yards through the air. I do trust him here to be able to get that ball moving down the field and for Saskatchewan to go over 23.5 points. Now, also, I'm going to take Saskatchewan straight up on the money line. Corey Mace is the head coach here, and he was the defensive coordinator for the Argos. I think the upset is brewing.
All right, thanks very much, Joe. So take Saskatchewan this weekend. Not sure I'm going to be catching a lot of CFL action with college football coming up on Saturday. And by the way, we got a great matchup, I think, right at the top here. Florida State takes on Georgia Tech. That's the first college football game of the season. Our buddy Rich Waltz is going to join us to preview one of the other games between SMU and Nevada. Now, once we get past this weekend, college football starts right back up next Thursday night and all the way through Labor Day weekend. One of the big matchups coming up right out of the box. 2 teams in the top 15 facing off. Number 1, Georgia against number 14, Clemson. Clemson expected to be a lot better than they were a year ago, and they've always been very good under Dabo Swinney and, of course, recruiting a lot up against Georgia's Kirby Smart. Smart had a press conference giving all of the accolades over to Clemson in this very tough matchup.
Yeah, I mean, we don't see them on the road recruiting as much as it seems like we used to. I don't know. It's died down some. I mean, there's a lot of overlap. They recruit our state hard. We recruit their state hard. A lot of respect for their players, their teams, their coaches, for what Dabo's built there. I had a good relationship with Brent when he was there, and he's in our league now. They've been one of the premier teams in college football in terms of the last 10 years, you could say. I mean, it's probably longer than that, but they've done a tremendous job. So we do see them on the road, some recruiting, but I think the matchup is more about our fans. Just getting that caliber of a matchup to start the season is important. But you know, we got issues on our hands today we're trying to deal with over the game.
Should be one of the more fun games Labor Day weekend. Again, that game not this weekend, but next weekend. Now, also, we've got 2 games in the NFL preseason tonight, and then everything wraps up over the next 24, 48 hours in the NFL. The days of 4 preseason games are gone. It's 3 and out, essentially, for the preseason. Josh Allen is not someone we've seen a ton of action on for the Buffalo Bills. Again, some players play, some players don't in the preseason. But Allen was talking a little bit about a retrospective about the early part of his career with the media yesterday as he gave a preview sort of what's to come this upcoming season. Allen talked about when to have fun, when to be serious, and most importantly, Allen recognizes just how important this upcoming season will be for him and the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a level of trying to always be who I am, be myself, be as authentic as possible. And everyone knows that's a joyous guy that likes to have fun. I love the game of football. I love life. But there's times where, there doesn't need to be joking around, time to get serious. And over the years, I've found when that is the most critical and when it's the hardest to do sometimes is the right thing to do. And I think just over the course of so many years and talking with different players that we've brought into the building, different coaches that we've had on staff, and just learning from each and every one of them and just trying to apply that to how I can be the best leader of this team that I can be. But ultimately it comes down to being myself, and I feel like I've been myself since I've been here, and I'm going to continue to do so and just try to bring guys along. So I know Coach McDermott talks about be you with us, and that's all we're trying to do here.
And Allen will have to develop some wide receivers for his squad this year with, of course, Stephon Diggs leaving town and going to Houston. Meanwhile, there's a change at quarterback for the Denver Broncos. It's official. Bo Nix will be the starting quarterback for Denver for the upcoming season. Yesterday, Sean Payton made the announcement official. There was some discussion that maybe Jarrett Stidham could win the job, or even Zach Wilson could come out and win the job, but it was very apparent in watching Knicks play in the preseason that he had won the job after playing in the first couple of games. Peyton talked about making the decision and the quarterback room for 2024.
So, look, Bo Nix is going to be our starting quarterback. I felt like, and I said this to you guys 2 weeks ago, that room has been outstanding. Stidham, certainly with his experience, and then, being able to work with Zach Wilson, all three of those guys. We've got some tough decisions as we get into the roster. I don't want to get into all the other roster battles. That's not for today. He's been outstanding. Obviously, there's a ton of room for growth. There's a lot of things that he needs to work on. I've already spoken with both, all three of those guys. Stiddy, will be a great resource for him, as well as Zach. And, we feel like that off season, at such an important position, we made some really good decisions, and we're going to have a chance to see them unfold as the season goes on.
And most teams do use multiple quarterbacks over the course of the season, so maybe we will see Wilson, maybe we will see Stidham this season. We'll be back with more Sports Grid. This is, of course, NewsWire, and we'll be back right after this. Don't go away.
It's an incredible setup here, incredible matchmaking, incredible storytelling. Oh, you had to come here. All these fighters that step in here are warriors, and all have my respect. And I'm into this game, yeah. We'll be into this, yeah.
And we are live here in the Maverick Center, here in Salt Lake City, Utah, folks. What a night. It is going to be historic indeed for BKFC 56.
Whoever's the king of violence right here, this is going to be a great fight.
Harry on the target for left hand from Perry, double check. Who's the king of violence? I am!
Combat fighting in its purest form, bare knuckle fighting in the city of Angels.
80 seconds remaining.
We've got the biggest announcement in the BKFC history we're about to make, so let's make that announcement.
What's up, Knucklemania? Conor McGregor here. Ladies and gentlemen, the huge announcement that I have for you today. Conor McGregor, myself, and McGregor Sports and Entertainment is now an owner of Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship. Welcome to the big leagues. David Feldman, baby, we did it.
He's now an owner of BKFC with us, and we're going to take this motherfucking thing all the way to the top now.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. This coming Saturday, our coverage begins of college football as Ben Stevens and the entire crew will be in on the morning to preview all of the games, including Florida State and Georgia Tech. In fact, we're going to have Rich Waltz, who's calling the game for CBS Sports Network between SMU and Nevada. And Ben joins us now. We'll talk some NFL. But first, Ben, thanks for coming on the show. I was just on with you. Now you're on with me. It's great to see you again. And thanks again for making some time here. How are you, man?
Craig, it is always good to be with you, whether it's the daily basis on the early line or here on NewsWire. I don't know if you saw the sound off yesterday. It looks like your Florida Gators are in for a tough slate in 2024. 8 preseason ranked opponents, Craig, for Billy Napier and the Gators this year. But yes, very juiced up for a new college football season. College football today's maiden voyage in 2024 is on Saturday. Myself, Kevin Walsh, Joe Lisi, the entire fantastic crew behind the scenes, bright and early, 9 a.m. Eastern time on Saturday. Should be a great time.
All right, so folks, tune into SportsGrid starting this week all the way through the new year, Saturday mornings right here on SportsGrid. And then, of course, on Sundays, we flip over to Pro Football Today, which doesn't start for a couple of weeks. We're still a couple of weeks from the NFL. And I guess the question is, Ben, at this point, are we going to see CeeDee Lamb play for the Dallas Cowboys? That seems to be a growing story at this point because he has not yet reported to camp. I mean, the Cowboys do have Brandon Cooks and Ferguson and some other weapons there, but I mean, you probably could make the case, if you're talking about a team that has high aspirations, that this is the one player the Cowboys could not afford to lose this season. And thus far, he has not shown up.
Yeah, Craig, to me, I have no idea what Jerry and his son Stephen Jones are doing in that Cowboys front office. I do not know what leverage they believe they have in this scenario to not sign and extend CeeDee Lamb at this point. They run the risk of a very dangerous game if CeeDee Lamb is not given a new contract before this year gets underway, if Lamb even shows up for 2024, still holding out from Cowboys training camp, because CeeDee Lamb would be in the final year of his contract. Dak Prescott, who is still awaiting a new contract extension as well, would be playing 2024 under the final year of his current deal. And Mike McCarthy, although he was brought back early in the offseason after another Dallas disappointment in the postseason, was not given an extension and is going to coach in the final year of his contract. There is a very likely chance, it would seem right now, that Dallas is in danger of their head coach, quarterback, and best offensive player in CeeDee Lamb all not being there next year. And Craig, if the idea is from Jerry, all right, we are judged by the standard of Super Bowl excellence here at the Star, and the Cowboys have not, of course, won a Super Bowl or even reached the NFC Championship game since their last Lombardi Trophy in 1995. And Jerry Jones is saying, I want to see the guys put up or you know what this year, and then I will give you all the money you could hope for. You run the risk of your wide receiver and quarterback testing the open market and asking for more money than you can spend. I have no idea what is happening in Dallas. I do not know why the Cowboys are approaching their offseason like this. CeeDee Lamb should certainly be paid as one of the top 5 highest wide receivers in the NFL, if not matching Justin Jefferson's record deal. It's a confounding time for the Cowboys, and the odds market has reflected it.
Yeah, so let's talk real quick before you go, Ben, about the odds market. How would you approach Lamb and Chase as far as their receiving yards total going into the season? Because I don't know if it's baked into any holdouts here, but 1325 is Lamb's number. And if for some reason this dude misses the first game of the season, you have a great shot of winning this bet if you go under here. But again, I don't know how you feel about the number for 17 games.
I would expect, Craig, although I am very questionable of what it is happening right now in Dallas, that come week number 1, come that first weekend, CeeDee Lamb is playing because he has received the money that he wants and correctly desires. And if you look at what he did last year, 1,749 receiving yards, second most only behind Tyreek Hill by 50 yards in the NFL, that number for his season-long prop here in 2024 feels a little bit light. Although I question Jerry Jones and am not understanding of what he is doing at this moment and wondering why the heck he is approaching things this way, I do believe that week number 1, CeeDee Lamb will have a new contract. He will be happy with the money, and he will be playing for the Dallas Cowboys. So I would actually lean over that number.
All right, Ben. Great stuff, as always. Great to see you. I'll see you again next week. And, of course, we'll see you on the early line in college football coming up this weekend. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for being here.
what has transpired here at the First Bank Center here in Denver, Colorado. It wasn't just a big night of fight. It was a big night of memorable moments.
Conor McGregor with us here in Denver, Colorado. Good left hand from Rockhold. Right hand, right back from Mike Perry.
Can I get a face-off with Conor McGregor, man?
It's an incredible setup here, incredible matchmaking, incredible storytelling. Oh, you had to come here. All these fighters that step in here are warriors, and all have my respect. And I'm into this game, yeah. We'll be into this, yeah.
And we are live here in the Maverick Center here in Salt Lake City, Utah. Folks, what a night. It is going to be historic indeed for BKFC 56.
Whoever's the king of violence right here, this is going to be a great fight.
Perry on the target for left hand from Mike Perry. Double check number 8. Who's the king of violence? I am!
Combat fighting in its purest form, bare knuckle fighting in the city of Angels.
80 seconds remaining.
We've got the biggest announcement in the BKFC history we're about to make, so let's make that announcement.
What's up, Knucklemania? The notorious Conor McGregor here. Ladies and gentlemen, the huge announcement that I have for you today. Conor McGregor, myself, and McGregor Sports and Entertainment is now an owner of Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship. Welcome to the big leagues. David Feldman, baby, we did it.
He's now an owner of BKFC with us, and we're going to take this motherfucking thing all the way to the top now.
All right, welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Pat Evans from Legal Sports Report is going to join us in just a minute, but we've got some breaking news here, and it looks like the Little League coach is still mad at Aaron Judge for not talking to him. I'm just kidding. That's not the news. There's a trade in the National Football League. Washington is trading Jahan Dotson and a 5th-round pick to the Eagles for a 3rd-round pick and 7th-round pick, according to ESPN. So Eagles get a new wide receiver next to A.J. Brown. Washington gets some picks. All right, let's get to the latest. Pat Evans joins us from Legal Sports Report. Pat, great to have you back here on NewsWire. Let's get fired up and get started right now. Fired up and started in Canada. We begin today. I know we were going to talk a little bit about this yesterday. The Score, which is a very popular app for many years, is one of the apps on my phone, by the way, that I check scores on. They're launching in Alberta. Let's get to the latest there.
Yeah, so I think we talked about this back in June, right after I got back from the Canadian Gaming Summit, but Alberta is the next market in North America to be opening up a commercial market. I think that's of note because, as we talked about yesterday, the U.S. is devoid of any market opening up right now. I mean, maybe Missouri gets it, it's on the ballot this November, maybe it gets through and gets passed, and we have a new American market next year, but Alberta, we know, is opening up. And we don't know exactly the date. Their regulators have said maybe later this year, maybe very early in 2025, but it's coming. And so, yeah, of course, of note is operators looking to this province and saying, let's go. Again, at the Canadian Gaming Summit, we got lots of news from operators and stakeholders in the industry that said this is going to be a big market. It's not huge population-wise, but they're very avid gamblers. There's lots of casinos there. There's huge amounts of money bet or raffled during Oilers hockey games. I think there was a 50-50 raffle that it got up to like $16 million during one of the playoff games. It's the youngest by demographic, but also the highest in per capita GDP. So, I mean, it's a very ripe market for the taking. And yeah, so during the recent earnings seasons, a lot of operators have said, hey, we're excited about this. We want to be in it. We see Ontario as a successful province, and let's go. Penn Entertainment of note here because they've got ESPN bet down here in the US, but up in Canada, they've got The Score, which is a Toronto-based media organization, to your point, very well known for their just basic sports media app that's good for tracking scores. And they're looking, from all points of views that I've talked to, we don't know for sure operator shares, but we know from just kind of anecdotal evidence that they're one of the leading operators in Ontario. So you have to imagine just by just the brand awareness in Canada that they're also going to be huge in Ontario or in Alberta. And Jay Snowden, the CEO, said pretty much just that. We've also got several other operators who mentioned how excited they are to kind of build on their Ontario experience in Alberta, including Betway, which recently just pulled out of the U.S. So that's kind of a significant note. North Star Bet, which is another Canadian-based kind of sports media organization, but they also are in the gambling business. Rush Street Interactive, which is Bet Rivers, and they're excited about it. So there's lots of operators who are looking at this as, hey, we need some growth opportunity in new markets, and this is where they're going to get it from. And again, of note, Ontario is a wholly different world than the U.S., even though we're just right next to each other and do share a lot of cultural similarities. It is a very different place, and Alberta is very different from Ontario when you get down to what sports they like and watch and bet on, and operators need to know that, and it's going to be fun to watch to see kind of how it opens up and who takes the lead there, but lots of operators are excited because, again, no new markets in the U.S. to look at, so they're looking at Alberta as the next frontier.
Yeah, nothing new on the 2024 slate, by the way. We could end up in Q4 with no legalization at all of any new states with sports betting. So this is interesting here from Arkansas. I read this article that you guys have over at Legal Sports Report. So a legislature in Arkansas is making the claim that they feel problem gambling, meaning the offshore sports books, are potentially a bigger problem for them than it is for another state. So then I thought about this here, and I'm like, Pat, is this just a little posturing to try to get sports betting legalized? Because it very well may be. I don't know. I mean, I have no data to back it up or not, but, I do have to look at things a little, cynically and say, hey, look, I mean, Arkansas is not the only state where people are there without legal sports betting, like California and Texas, by the way, on the border, that people have to go online and bet illegally if they want to bet.
Yeah, Arkansas is a very strange state. I mean, they opened up in 2022 their online sports betting market, and they set a revenue share of 51%. So 51% of any revenue had to stay in Arkansas. So you had no interest from out-of-state operators like FanDuel and DraftKings. So it's a very interesting market in the sense that the leading sports book is Bet Saracen, a 5-year-old casino brand in Arkansas. I mean, that's kind of, again, a weird market when you look at the U.S. sports betting ecosystem. And again, it's Bet Saracen and the CMO, Carlton Safa, who's leading kind of the charge to get online casino legalized. It's a very, again, interesting market. The way they've set it up is the legislator passed some gaming legislation in 2017, I think it was, that basically said casino gaming is allowed within 4 walls. But it's very easy to change the rules and kind of open it up to say, within the 4 borders of the state. And that's what happened in 2022 to open up online sports betting. Now they're looking at it and saying, hey, we can do that with casino games. And the reason they want to do that is kind of to shut down the offshore sports or offshore casinos, which, we've seen lots of cease and desist to the likes of Bovada from all sorts of regulators. And this is just kind of the way they want to get it done. Talking with that chief marketing officer from Saracen yesterday, he said, we want to get this done because, it's for the consumer protection more than anything, but we also want to make sure we're protecting our own revenues, that we're protecting the consumers, that this gets done. And he said something interesting. He said Michigan regulators are the ones who are kind of the gold standard for the state or for the country. That's great for me up here in Michigan. But he said, we're seeing a lot of cease and desists from these states. Does it do anything? A lot of them no, but Michigan, because there's legalized gaming from authorized operators, it helps push the illegal operators out. So I think that's something to watch, and it could be the next online casino state down there in Arkansas. Does that mean much for the industry and at large? Probably not, because of their revenue sharing situation.
Yeah, very different than a lot of the other states, but that's why we cover it, and that's why you cover it over at Legal Sports Report. Pat, thanks for coming on the show a couple of times this week. We'll catch up with you again next week.
Thanks as always, Craig.
All right, Pat Evans from LegalSportsReport.com. You can read about everything that we discuss here on the show over on their site. All right, coming up next, Rich Waltz is going to join us. He's about to get on a plane and head over to Nevada as they're getting ready for a big game between SMU and Nevada. And guess who's going to be calling that game for CBS Sports Network? It is Rich Waltz. So Rich is going to join us and give you a preview of that game as well. As a reminder, we're back on the show tomorrow with a full college football preview. We'll go over all of the games coming up this weekend. And then naturally, don't forget Saturday morning, in addition to our college football show, we have a brand new fantasy football draft preview show on Fantasy Sports Today. It's myself and George Kurtz. That's Saturday a.m. each and every Saturday throughout the pro football season. And then on Sunday mornings, you can catch Joe Pisapia and Matt Stryker. That's each and every weekend exclusively here on SportsGrid. So stay with us here as we come back next. If you're getting ready for some college football and you don't know anything about the University of Nevada football team and know very little about SMU joining the ACC, guess who has to do a deep dive before the broadcast? It's Rich Waltz, and I wonder what he thinks about this new landscape of college football. We'll ask him those questions next.
It's an incredible setup here, incredible matchmaking, incredible storytelling. Oh, you had to come here. All these fighters that step in here are warriors, and all have my respect. And I'm into this game, yeah. I'll be into this, yeah.
And we are live here in the Maverick Center, here in Salt Lake City, Utah, folks. What a night. It is going to be historic indeed for BKFC 56.
Whoever's the king of violence right here, this is going to be a great fight.
Harry on the target for right hand from my Perry. Double check. Who's the king of violence? I am!
Combat fighting in its purest form. Bare knuckle fighting in the city of angels.
80 seconds remaining.
We've got the biggest announcement in the BKFC history we're about to make, so let's make that announcement.
What's up, Knucklemania? The notorious Conor McGregor here. Ladies and gentlemen, the huge announcement that I have for you today. Conor McGregor, myself, and McGregor Sports and Entertainment is now an owner of Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship. Welcome to the big leagues. David Feldman, baby, we did it.
He's now an owner of BKFC with us, and we're going to take this motherfucking thing all the way to the top now.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Week 0 of college football is here, and while there are only a handful of games, the prime time game Saturday night is SMU making their ACC debut on the road against Nevada, and calling the game on television for CBS Sports Network is Rich Waltz, and always excited to have Rich here on the show. In my opinion, one of the most versatile and best broadcasters in the industry, and so excited to have him back here with us on NewsWire. Rich, great to see you. Great to see you. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for that. It's week 0, which means that I know less than 0 about these teams when I started the prep, because in this day and age of college football, there's so much transfer portal stuff. NIL is fueling that. Coaches leave, players follow them. Programs change coaches like Nevada has, and they're somewhat of a mystery. But SMU is one of the teams that you have a pretty good idea of who they are. They have returned, or are returning, their 7 top receivers from last year. They've got a really good quarterback. Preston Stone led the American last year. Of course, they're stepping up in play. They are headed to the ACC. They're picked 7th in the ACC. So, but this group is relatively intact. Rhett Lashley's in his 3rd year. They've got weapons on the outside. They kind of run the spread, but with a power running game, which is a fun little wrinkle there. And then Nevada changed coaches for the 3rd time in like 4 years. And Jeff Choate is their head coach. He's a guy that's had success at Montana State, took them to the national semifinals. And that's a natural progression in coaching circles now. You have someone that at a lower level has success like he has, and then he left to be the defensive coordinator at Texas. So there's a resume at Montana State, that 11-4. And then the last couple of years, he was been the defensive coordinator at a power, I guess it's Power 4 now, school. So that's kind of the setup. And really, I mean, I'll even show you the difference right now. So look, here's SMU's depth chart. Okay. So nice and pretty. I got a little bit of stuff going in there. Here's Nevada's depth chart, and it's kind of empty because there's a lot.
You've got a lot of work ahead.
Yeah. There's a lot of mystery there. You know, their quarterback is somewhat known, Brendan Lewis. He was a starter at Colorado. He's one of the guys that left a couple of years ago. He got knocked around last year. They won 2 games last year. They gave up 41 sacks. But I will go this direction because I've learned in this business you can never say, well, on paper these guys this should be an easy game for SMU.
Oh, you never know.
Last year I had Nevada at home and completely different coaching staff, almost a complete different roster, and Kansas came to Reno, and Kansas, it was a pretty good team, and Nevada played them even the whole game. It was a 1-score final. So, week 0, there's a lot of mystery and you're not sure what to expect. But I'm interested to see SMU. There are some people, Craig, who have kind of tabbed them as a dark horse, possibly in the ACC, even though the preseason polls have them at 7th.
Yeah. No, and look, they're huge favorites in the game, and so they're expected to win. But as Rich said, you never know. Rich will be calling the game, by the way, with Robert Turbin, former NFL running back. Not only SMU, but Cal is in the ACC. Stanford is in the ACC. And so in the limited time we have, Rich, I just kind of want your thoughts, like, on this crazy landscape of college football. I know I've seen people like complain a little bit about it. I think they're crazy. Once we get used to this, I think this is going to be the most exciting college football season ever.
Oh, it can be. And once we get used to all this new realignment, it may change again in 2 or 3 years because everyone seems to think there'll be a super football conference. And that's what SMU has done here. I mean, SMU and Cal and Stanford were like the leftovers, right, from conference realignment. Cal and Stanford got an invite, but they're getting, I believe, less like a third of the TV money from the ACC. SMU wasn't going to get any money. They raised $150 million in a really short time from boosters and donors and alums to fund the athletic department. I think it's a really smart move because they've elevated themselves into a power conference. And whatever direction football goes, whether it consolidates to a 40 or a 60 team, they're in that group now. And they should be. I think, their location, they've continued to build their stadium up, and their program is ready to jump in and have a really good year. Cal and Stanford, good luck with the travel. That's not going to be easy. Cal's better than Stanford in football right now. You know what? When David Shaw was really rolling like 5, 6, 7 years ago, if all this realignment had happened, Stanford might just be in the Big Ten because they were that attractive football-wise. But they really held out on playing the portal and the NIL game. Obviously, with Stanford, they didn't take a lot of transfers, and that's kind of what sunk them. But yeah, look, I mean, look out here. I live on the West Coast, so it's somewhat disappointing because of the Pac-12 history. But you're interested to see Oregon and Washington and USC. I have UCLA in a couple of weeks. I'm interested to see them in the Big Ten, see how the travel works, and see how their style of play works.
When do you leave for Reno?
I'm jumping in a car here in about an hour and a half, and then I'll be down in Reno tonight. And then tomorrow's a big day because you know when you do a college football game, you get in on a Thursday, and then Friday you spend the day with both coaching staffs. So it'll be fun to get to know Jeff Choate. And I've not met Rhett Lashley before, but those meetings are always good. He's a Gus Malzahn disciple, so I want to know more about his offense and how they do it.
Yeah, well, if you are watching Rich and you're like, wait a second, I've seen this guy doing baseball this season too. You absolutely have. Rich has been on Apple TV doing Major League Baseball and the Major League Baseball Network Showcase. Rich, have a great time. We'll be watching the game Saturday, and certainly a normal Saturday night with this game, maybe nobody cares, but I mean, this is the primetime game this week at week 0. Glad you got it, and always appreciate you coming on whenever we ask on NewsWire, and thanks again.
Thanks for the invite. I miss you guys down in South Florida, but there's a ton of Miami kids that followed Lashley to SMU, so if you're a Miami person, you might feel right at home.
All right, Rich, thanks again. Rich Waltz with us. We'll be right back after this.
What has happened? What has transpired here at the First Bank Center here in Denver, Colorado? It wasn't just a big night of fight. It was a big night of memorable moments.
Conor McGregor with us here in Denver, Colorado. Good left hand from Ron Paul. Right hand right back from Mike Perry.
Could I get a face-off with Conor McGregor, man?
It's an incredible setup here, incredible matchmaking, incredible storytelling. Oh, you had to come here. All these fighters that step in here are warriors, and all have my respect. And I'm into this game, yeah. We'll be into this, yeah.
And we are live here in the Maverick Center here in Salt Lake City, Utah. Folks, what a night. It is going to be historic indeed for BKFC 56.
Whoever's the king of violence right here, this is going to be a great fight.
Perry on the target for the left hand. Right hand from Mike Perry. Double check. Who's the king of violence? I am!
Combat fighting in its purest form. Bare knuckle fighting in the city of angels.
80 seconds remaining.
We've got the biggest announcement in the BKFC history we're about to make, so let's make that announcement.
What's up, Knucklemania? The notorious Conor McGregor here. Ladies and gentlemen, the huge announcement that I have for you today. Conor McGregor, myself, and McGregor Sports and Entertainment is now an owner of Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship. Welcome to the big leagues. David Feldman, baby, we did it.
He's now an owner of BKFC with us, and we're going to take this motherfucking thing all the way to the top now.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Time now to wrap it all up with some last licks. We'll get into how the St. Louis Cardinals swept the board, major leagues and minor leagues, all in the same way. A new book is set to come out that exposes some of the relationship between Nick Saban and Lane Kiffin, and also maybe there's a better player to play in an upcoming Olympic Games at quarterback than Patrick Mahomes? Not sure about that. Time now for some last licks. Well, there's a lot of talk right now about the next Olympic Games, and it does appear Major League Baseball is going to have a hand in having Major League players there. We know the NBA does, and again, this is in the United States coming up in Los Angeles. It's still several years away, and so they're trying to figure out a way to get some NFL players to play in the Olympics. I don't know that that's ever going to happen, so they're talking about using some other athletes here from the U.S., maybe even flag football players. Very bizarre comment made by a U.S. flag football quarterback, Darrell Doucette, who made the comment about Patrick Mahomes, saying, at the end of the day, I feel like I'm better than Patrick Mahomes because of my IQ of the game. Now, this is a great way to get yourself on TV shows like ours with making silly comments. We also understand that there's no way that this is actually true. But at the same time, when you think about it and sort of think it through, if they're not going to use pro football quarterbacks or going to use, like, let's say, third string quarterbacks to play in some sort of Olympic game of flag football or something else, wouldn't it be better served to actually use the quarterbacks that are playing in these flag football affairs? I think so. So while Doucette's comments are really stupid, have to take that kind of under consideration if they're going to make that Olympic sport in 4 years. And I would guess they will in Los Angeles. To have the guys play in the NFL, almost impossible. With these new contracts, we've seen players get hurt off the field in silly stuff before, so I don't see that. All right, meanwhile, there was a once upon a time before Lane Kiffin took the head coaching gig at the University of Mississippi. He was the assistant coach under Nick Saban at the University of Alabama. And basically, there is a story right now about a book called The Price that Lane Kiffin and Nick Saban didn't get along. In fact, Nick Saban was super mad at his agent, Jimmy Sexton, for having Lane Kiffin even come on the staff. We've seen Kiffin take some shots and, in fact, pick against Alabama before when he was gone and he ended up leaving, going to Mississippi. But this new book is going to come out and going to be surprising for a lot of people, because I think that while most people feel that, Saban has some icy relationships with staff members and things of that nature, usually he's resurrected a lot of careers, and Kiffin, you probably would say, is one of those. I mean, Kiffin failed at the NFL level after being a USC and did a great job at the University of Alabama, got himself a job at Mississippi, left before Alabama's national championship to take the job at FAU and then Mississippi. So, interesting stuff here. I think that we'll learn more about this relationship. Not all that surprising. Nick Saban, not the most well-liked guy when he was coaching. Seems a lot more likable now. All right, finally, the St. Louis Cardinals at the Major League level had a very exciting game last night. They called up this kid, Lucan Baker. He had a pinch hit home run to tie it. And then Nolan Arenado hit a grand slam walk-off to win it, but he was not the only one. In fact, the Cardinals organization swept the board, first time ever in history, every single level of Cardinals baseball, Major League, AAA, AA, Single A, all the games that were played were all walked off yesterday throughout the organization. Really cool story. And so I think all across the board, you say to yourself, how could this possibly happen? But it did. You see something new in baseball every day. The Major League Cardinals, supremely disappointing. Maybe this will be something that will get them going in the right direction. But as of now, they'll take it because not much else good has happened for them over the last couple of weeks. That will do it for our show today. Thanks again to Rich Waltz for coming on the program. You can catch that Saturday night game on CBS Sports Network between SMU and Nevada. Thanks again, as always, to Pat Evans from Legal Sports Report. Thanks to our director, Luke, and our producer, Frank. And coming up next, we have the early line that's followed by Kaplan and Crew at 1 p.m. Eastern, so make sure you check out that show. Scott Farrell, Coast to Coast at 3, followed by Game Time Decisions, In-Game Live, and then Gabe on Sports Rage tonight. I'll see you back here for our next edition of NewsWire. That is tomorrow, and we'll recap a little NFL preseason football from last night. We'll also get into more college football with Bill Bender from Sporting News and preview all of the games coming up for Week 0 on Saturday. So hope you enjoy the rest of your night. Keep it locked here to SportsGrid. More great programming coming up throughout your day and your evening. And I'll see you tomorrow morning, same time, same place, 11 a.m. Eastern, for our next edition of NewsWire. See you then.